This program is brought to you by 3C TV. Like what you learned? Visit our website or follow us on Facebook and Twitter to keep up on the latest 3C TV programs.
I'm John Dunn. That's Rick Hatlin. We're here to talk about apprenticeship programs, and it was interesting today. John Kraft that spoke this morning said something about troops to trades, and I thought, wait a minute, because I've been involved in some other things, and I grabbed him afterward, and he was talking about the same thing that I was thinking about, so that was good. And then Rick's going to talk a little bit about some of the other programs for veterans too. So, since we're a small group, let's find out who the heck you guys are so that we don't say anything silly in front of someone we might not want to do that with. So I'll start over here.
My name's Mark Stevens. I teach history at Chabot College, and I'm the advisor for the Student Veterans Organization.
Great.
My name's Aaron Allen. I'm from Chabot College. He's my boss.
Awesome.
I'm a student veteran. I also work on a student certified official for moving on up. I'm kind of just here to learn as much as I can.
Great.
Tammy Allen, I'm secretary to the Student Veterans Organization. Here to learn and to be able to help out.
There you go. And come and hang out in Orange County in a really nice warm day. Yeah. We'll head to the back.
Nancy Montgomery from Cerritos College. I oversee the Veterans Resource Center and the Student Health Services.
Good. I'll be at Cerritos in a couple weeks. Maybe I'll swing by and say hi. So
Come to our ERC.
I will. In the back.
I'm Diana Hicks. I have a number of hats, but I'm actually here as the instructional faculty, English, but I'm also the learning community coordinator. And part of what interests me is that I can see putting some kind of community together that leads into something like an apprenticeship program.
You bet. There you go. Good deal.
Jasmine Vargas, Mount San Antonio College, certified official.
Awesome. And
Cynthia Burnett, Mount San Antonio College, California.
it's a theme today. Yeah, I'm out and back.
Long Beach City College, my name is Erica Gutierrez, and I'm the financial aid advisor and the veterans advisor.
Cool. And you just rolled in.
Hi, my name's Craig Weaver. I'm a student at College of Marin. I'm also the Veterans Resource Coordinator. I'm kind of a volunteer position.
There you go.
Our Veterans Resource Office.
You get to think about it from both directions.
Exactly.
Yes, okay.
And I'm a veteran as well.
There you go. Yeah.
Ezra Gonzalez, San Diego City College. I'm a therapist at the Mental Health Counseling Center, exclusively focusing on veterans. And I'm also the coordinator for a veteran peer mentor program funded by the Global Lawyer Project. So I kind of
Oh, cool.
do a role.
There you go. And
My name is Mario Raposo. I'm the Veterans Counselor at Fresno City College.
good. And it's kind of nice. As I'm hearing these names, almost everybody here is at a campus where there's either some apprenticeship programs happening, and you may or may not know about it, or there's somebody like at Long Beach City College, Lynn Shaw would be a great resource for apprenticeship too if you run into her on campus. So, and I think Long Beach has one too. So, and one last person. Here we go. Who are you? Where are you from?
Harrison, Coastline Community College.
There you go. Coastline doesn't have one, but we'll find you something. So, that's all right. Chabot's here. So anyway, as you're listening to this, I think you'll little light bulbs will start going off. I'm all out of business cards. I've been on a speaking tour, it seems like, and they only gave me so many. I just got to the chancellor's office in middle of July, and I didn't get the box of 500 yet. It's on the way. So that's my fault for not bugging people. But so you'll have all my contact information. You guys can track me down and ask more questions, and Rick too. Especially Southern California folks, Rick could be your go-to person down here. So let me move along here and see if I can stay close to that. A little bit of background. Depending on your background, you may or may not even understand what apprenticeship is, but we'll do the quick and dirty version of it. We like to call it learn while you earn. There's no tuition for the apprentice in California. Or if they have to pay for something, it's $500 in tools, some equipment, things like that. A lot of times that's actually covered by the apprenticeship program. But generally, the way it's been run is that there's not a cost to the student. They're going to school. Most of the cost is borne by the employers that we'll talk about here. It's post-secondary education for GI Bill purposes, okay? And I think Rick can get into that even better than I can, because that's a change from a few years ago where it was tough for apprentices to get access to their GI Bill benefits because this didn't look like going to college. It was difficult. Includes a classroom component and on-the-job training component. So you have to have both. You have to be working. You have to have an employer involved. So you've got an employer, you've got classroom, and then you've got the apprenticeship committee that Rick's a part of. So that's the nice part. You're learning and earning at the same time. So you're not like when I got my teaching credential as a high school teacher, working for free for 4 months as a student teacher. That was fun. No cost to the apprentice, some books and tools. I'm looking at some different things in the United Kingdom. Actually has some real interesting ways of doing that, where they do a scholarship reimbursement or other ways, but you'll hear a little bit about how we do it in California. But we're looking at different models of funding too. So maybe the apprentice in the future bears a little bit of the money, or if it's an advanced apprenticeship, things like that. But there's lots of different ways. Huh? Oh yeah. And just in the last 3 days, a whole bunch of new articles have come out, and I didn't get them into the PowerPoint. So there's a bunch of brand new things that just popped up. All right, so here's another piece of the pie. There's this place called the Division of Apprenticeship Standards, and we like to call it the DAS. And that's a state government agency. It's part of the Department of Industrial Relations, which is under the EDD, which is under the Labor Agency. So there you go. I had no idea that the Labor Agency had so many bits and parts. They oversee all the apprenticeship rules, regulations in California. So they have consultants out in the field that run around and keep an eye on things and help start new programs, help support existing programs. And they can also give you extensive support for veterans. This PDF or this PowerPoint is available if you guys want to give me a call, or if we can put it up on the Veterans Summit website later on, I think. I know I was a late ad because somebody canceled out, so David said, hey, great, get in here. Because when I asked them before, they were all full, so now we're in. So I can give you all the links to this. If you go to the Division of Apprenticeship website, there's an I Built It video campaign, which was pretty good. It's a few years old now, but it's a nicely well-produced video, bunch of videos on YouTube that you can show to students or have on your website, a link to it, however you set it up. I put Don Merrill as the contact, not just because I like to send him lots of emails, but Don's the official veterans contact for the DAS. So he sits on the state veterans, has a couple committees for apprenticeship, and he represents the DAS there. He's a good guy to contact also. So there's that information. And again, if I'm going quick, get a hold of me later and I'll get you all the information. Let's move along. Here's a little bit of information that I pulled off the DAS website, and some of it might be better now, actually. 22% of California jobs need a bachelor's degree. A lot of this stuff you know about already. You've heard these things. We're going to need 75% of new jobs with a high level of technical literacy. And as we'll kind of kick around more, is there's a lot of folks that are retiring in building maintenance and all kinds of different places. There's a big baby boomer population that's been sitting in jobs for 30 to 35 years, and they're leaving, and they have a big chunk of knowledge that we need to transfer to the next batch of employees. So this last piece here is the HVAC in San Jose area. The Pipe Trades Training Center up there, that's Rick's counterpart, he told me 50% of his journeymen are over age 50. And that's just people that are currently in jobs, not the new construction. Apple Computer's doing a $1 billion construction project that's going to have, I don't know how many apprentices on that site, just for what you guys do. I mean, because it's going to be production, manufacturing, a little bit, everything, so it's going to have some very heavy-duty climate control. So that's a big, big job, plus the maintenance on that. however thousands of square feet. So, and Rick will talk about what the job opportunities are here in Southern California too. Okay. So what's in it for me, says the college? Well, you get pathway from your college to employment. That's good. A lot of the new metrics, and I work in the workforce and employment development area, so we talk in terms of metrics and leading indicators and things like that. So the things that colleges are becoming graded on are assisted with apprenticeship. So you've got an employment that they're already employed, okay? When they finish and they journey out, become journeymen, that counts as a completer. Even if they didn't get, if they got a 6-unit certificate or a 10-unit certificate or whatever it may be, they don't have to get an AS degree to become a completer in terms of you get to check a box. They're obviously a success. They have a job, they completed a training program, and they're a contributing member of society. So that helps. Some pre-apprenticeship opportunities. You might want to start something up that's a little bit more broad that talks about several different pre-apprenticeship or apprenticeship programs in your geographic area, and you can provide that kind of a service to your employees or your students. And they can then choose and then you can reach out and make connections with those apprenticeship programs and maybe provide a very direct pipeline. Different places have direct entry, or you get preferential treatment, or you move to the top of the list. However it may be, if you provide a solid pre-apprenticeship program that gives them some foundation in math and safety and reading and writing, that moves them in. They become a better apprentice for those apprenticeship programs. So you're providing a service to the students, but also to the local apprenticeship programs and also the employers that hire those apprentices. So they get a better apprentice. And everybody here has different things going on at their colleges, so I'm trying to hit all the different buttons so that you can pick it up. There's a big employer component to this, so that helps your local employers. The Journeyman Card's nationally recognized certification, okay? We talk about third-party certifications a lot. Your guys get OSHA?
Yeah,
certified?
OSHA 10, OSHA
So
30.
they get OSHA 10 and OSHA 30, so they're inside the training program, there's certifications. And then the Journeyman Card counts as a certificate also. And it's the right thing to do. Because, and you've heard a lot of it, I'm sure, the last day or two, but veterans make pretty good apprentices. They already know how to go to work and show up on time and do things like that, that a lot of apprentices that you first get don't do so well. So the failure rate or the rate of folks dropping out of an apprenticeship program in the first 6 months is strikingly similar to colleges. So if you can find someone that's going to stick with it or provide a pre-apprenticeship to show them what they're going to get so that when they get there they stay with it, that's even better. There you go. What does this do, or why does this apprenticeship for veterans work? There's a team structure to it. You have a group of apprentices, they're all in the same class. If it's a really big program, they might mix a little bit, but generally they're all working together, they show up together, they might be taking online classes together, so there's a team approach, which I like, personally. They're used to difficult work environments. There's some of the videos that I've seen of apprentices that work out in the desert putting in the solar panels. It's not a lot different than what they experienced when they were in a uniform, except it's probably a better sleeping environment at night, I'm guessing. There are snakes and things out there. Some of the pictures have guys with chaps on. That always excited me, I thought. Why am I working when there's a rattlesnake cruising around? But I guess they've got chaps and they've got safety. They understand the importance of training. They've gone through training at some point, obviously, and they know how to take the training and apply it. And like Rick will talk about too, I'm going to keep pointing at Rick because Rick has lots of good information, but there's a lot of practical knowledge that they picked up that's very applicable to what this apprenticeship program might be. And if they enjoy doing it in the service, probably stick with it here and make good money. Here's a couple examples of other community colleges. There was a big American River College contingent. I heard them this morning yelling because they were winning, I guess. They have a couple pre-apprenticeship programs. The first one's the Power Pathways. That's for veterans, and Do we have internet in here? I don't know. I didn't check. It's okay. We don't need to click on the video. We could come back to that if we want to. But they had a nice news video. Oh, but we don't have audio.
You just gotta turn it up on the.
Got it.
Tom DeRain shows us it is hands-on training, and it's a lot of hard work.
There we go.
We got 3 ups and downs to do. We're going to go to the green line.
A slug lineman instructing young veterans. These are former Marines and Army soldiers, also ex-Navy and Air Force. It's part of a 2-month pre-apprentice program.
Ready? Up!
That's Gerald Shipley. Not long ago, he was carrying a 60-pound backpack in combat in Afghanistan. He thinks working on a utility crew would be a good fit.
I appreciate the higher risk environments and the adrenaline involved. So when you get into a trade like this, it's really technical. When you become proficient, everything just clicks, and you feel really good and secure in that training.
Nearby, other vets are working on substation equipment, doing the actual jobs that utility workers do every day.
You want me to?
Shirley Lee Andrew is ex-Army from Auburn.
I feel like there's a purpose in it, and it makes me feel good to be able to help people out.
The vets say training at SMUD and PG&E through American River College can open doors for a career.
That's why I came here. As veterans, that's what we want. We want a career. We don't want just a job.
A full utility apprenticeship has a starting salary around $70,000 with benefits. But then some are learning this part of utility work is probably not for them.
I want to be a heavy equipment operator personally. And this is just a program that's opening up my eyes to this kind of industry.
Utility officials say vets make great employees. They're disciplined, reliable, tough, team-oriented, and they pay close attention to training.
These vets will be graduating from this program next week. Each of them will walk away with 3 certificates, including one from SMUD, one from PG&E, and that'll put them first in line when it comes to applying for apprenticeships at any utility across the nation. In Sacramento, Tom Duhane, KCRA 3 reports.
Both PG&E and SMUD say they have full-time 4-year apprentice positions opening soon.
Yes, they do. And I went to one of the meetings there, or one of the graduation, and they had employers there, and they were basically interviewing folks out in the parking lot, and almost everybody was getting hired. And I'll show you some of the stats from, they're still getting the data from this year. I'll come back over here and talk about it. They're still getting the data from this year, data. They were just picking these guys off, and women too. And what they do in the morning is kind of interesting. They do physical fitness. They actually get PE credits for this too. A PE teacher comes over from AR, and some of you, I'm sure, if you were a veteran, you've moved rocks from one place to another and back. So these guys are actually doing that, but they understand that, hey, we're actually just, this is a much more interesting way to get in shape. And they have experienced journeymen there helping to train them, and they realize that, you know, this is stuff we're going to have to do out on the job site. But the PE teacher also teaches them about stretching and physical health and things like that. So there's a lot more to it, and it's a team environment, and they work together. It's a very neat deal. I would not want to be picking up, you know, cinder blocks and moving them around. Uh-oh, it started again. So they had 25 enrolled, 25 completions. 88% totally employed to date, $31 an hour. So these are power pathway, power linemen, and these jobs, these are the folks up in the north end of the state at least, that when we get a bad weather, they get a lot of overtime too, but they need to be out working outside, and they enjoy it. That whole PG&E and SMUD and Southern California Gas and Electric have a grain workforce too. And that's why they're involved in this. They're putting a lot of money into this to make sure it works. So he's open. F5. There we go. Oh, that's right. I forgot the F5 trick. And we'll buzz through it. And so American River College has a pretty successful pre-apprenticeship program. They call it, that one's the Power Pathways. They also have something called Project Stripe, which that other gentleman that wants to be what do you want? He wanted to be a heavy equipment operator. So that would be the operating engineers. They're the guys that move the dirt first. And part of the operating engineers is also surveyors. And there's a lot more women in the surveyors world. That's a big piece of where the apprenticeship hires a lot of women. And that's a pretty interesting job too. That's not so much you're outside and you're working, but you're not lifting a lot of heavy stuff. But you are moving things around in the survey equipment and things like that. And if you don't do the survey right, the road doesn't get built right, and things go sideways 20 years from now or sooner. Once upon a time, I was an claims adjuster here in Orange County working on construction defect claims in Laguna Hills. So if you don't grade the property right, it slides a little bit. It's kind of important, just a little bit. Hope none of you owned one of those houses, or condos is what they were. Anyway, okay, kicking through this stuff. Good, 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 good. Any questions so far? All right. And we're moving. That was pretty good completion rate, I think.
Now, that completion rate, that was specifically through the PG&E program?
Yeah, that particular program. And then here's the newer ones. So spring 2013, they just finished that up. 33 completions, 17 are employed so far. That seems low to me. I'm wondering if that's going to catch up, because they were really hiring a lot.
The reason I'm asking the question was because in 2007, when I got out of active duty the first time, I went through American River College and went through the construction union, and our apprenticeship program was ran through American River College.
The carpentry.
And it was doing really well until 2008 when the downsize happened. And literally, I think it was 75% of the students that were enrolled had to get out because we could go to class. We could go right through the apprenticeship program. But there was
no work.
Hiring junior apprentices, so it was kind of the defeatist class. But
yeah, that you hit it at the absolute worst possible moment. Come on back. No, keep your job now. It's probably not. Yeah, that particular carpenters got killed, and you guys got killed pretty good.
Our new construction got hurt big time.
Yeah, that's a bad, and now everything's starting to come back up. So, yeah, the carpenters are still with ARC, and they're actually expanding a little bit now. They're seeing more work, so that's good. Got the fall class just finished. 2 more cohorts coming up. Mary Wolf is your contact person at AR. She told me a couple things. High placement due to lots of outreach to employers. They have a nice breakfast. They bring the employers. They have actually like a yearbook, and they have a picture and the resume of every single one of the veterans in the program. It's really kind of neat. I was flipping through it, and I thought, oh, that's what it's actually their resumes, and they hand that out so the employers can take it with them. Like it says, they had to be very creative in terms of courses and course approvals and things like that. And I think maybe at the chancellor's office, I'm still learning how that all works, but we're going to try to smooth that out as much as we can, I think. All right. Programs for veterans. Here's some other ones. Helmets to hard hats. John talked about troops to trades, same basic idea. Okay, construction. Trying to think of where Daryl is. I got Daryl Roberts' name off the website. That's where I got it. Wounded Warrior, somebody talked about. Veterans in Piping, that's Rick. He's going to talk about that in a second. And like I said, I'll have this video, or I'll have this presentation up. You guys can click on the links there. So these are more that I could find that I already knew about. The troops to trades is not as well promoted, but I knew about it. I just didn't necessarily remember that it was up and running. It's running pretty well. And what he mentioned is if you're at a community college and you're working with the facilities folks, that model flips very well into community colleges. And we got 112 of them. So on the facilities side, it'd be nice to train local veterans to become employees on your campus to do the facilities maintenance too. There's a lot of those folks that are retiring also. So anyway, if I remember right, I'm going to introduce Rick Hatlin now and let him take over.
Good morning. Tell you a little bit about what I'm here to talk to you about is I've been involved with the United Association. That's a group of folks that we have locals all over the U.S., Canada, and now in Australia. We have about 800,000 members. It's primarily the pipe trades, which encompasses sprinkler fitters, pipe fitters, air conditioning, refrigeration fitters, plumbing, And in all of that, there's a lot of electrical and all the other general construction type things. But we have 3,500 training centers in the U.S. and Canada. We just have made a new affiliation with Australia, to where now we have folks from there, and we have folks here that are going over there, that there's some work over there. So it's a sharing of information. But what I'm going to talk to you today about is a couple of programs that we have that have been very successful with the veterans, and one being, John brought up the helmets to hard hats a little bit ago. We've had a program out at Camp Pendleton here locally that we set up on base a welding program, 2 huge tractor trailer rigs that have like our rolling classrooms, and folks that are still in the military that are getting ready to cycle out the last 18 weeks or so of their active duty, they go into these programs. And I won't kid you, it's 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, and it's instruction on how to be a good welder, how, all the safety requirements, OSHA requirements, first aid requirements, things of that nature. And then at the end of that, you graduate, and like a lot of veterans, some live locally, some are going to go in different places, and so the UA tries to do their best to place them, because we have locals all over the U.S. and Canada. And so we've been very fortunate down in San Diego. We've been 100% employment for those folks that came out of that program. Now these are folks that once they go to an apprenticeship program at like in San Diego, these welders, this class, all of our classes are 5-year apprenticeships, okay? And it's 2 nights a week. They work for an employer during the day, and they go to school 2 nights a week at night. Like John said, there's no cost to the training for them at all, for the books and stuff. Most of the tools, except for small hand tools, are supplied by the companies. But it knocks a year off of their apprenticeship, okay? So they can start second year with these groups, and it's been hugely successful. We started also a program called Veterans in Piping for HVAC. So it's the same type of program, and it started up in Seattle at McCord-Lewis Air Force Base, Army Base up there. Same setup, a tractor trailer rig pulls up with a huge container in the back that's set up with all this type of test equipment. It's set right on the base. There's typically a classroom that we use there, and same setup. Now these classes aren't huge. They're like 9 to 10 at a time, and we're on our 3rd graduation up there. So it's the first one just started, I guess just about last year at this time for the HVAC program. Question?
How are people that are still on active duty able to get away for 8 hours a day?
Well,
Day after day to do the training?
good question. That we have an agreement with the Armed Forces group, and as you know, on a base, or you may not know this, people work for all different divisions on the base, okay? So we have an agreement with like the Marines, and up there it's with the Army and the Air Force, and their commanders, once they've qualified for this program, their commanders allow them, instead of their normal duties, to come to that as their duty, as the turnout. Now I have heard that some of the commanders have them doing not double duty, but some other duty, maybe on the weekends and stuff like that, But I'd say 95% of the commanders have been great about allowing their folks to, do the time, and because if they don't they don't get there for the whole time, they don't get their qualifications, and it doesn't qualify them once they get out. But we started this for the HVAC program, like I said, I think just about a year ago now. We're working on our 3rd class. What's neat about it is now it's not just, hey, you sign up and you get in. They have to go through a selection process, and they have to go through, hey, what are your long-term goals? Where do you see yourself finishing, ending up? And then we have organizers that are working on finding you a spot once you're done. Let's say you're going to go move back to Chicago. So as soon as you enroll in school, they're working and seeing if somebody in Chicago needs somebody, okay? And so that they have a position for that person once they get out. Because that's the worst case scenario is you do the training and you don't have a spot for them. Yes?
And that goes right into the idea of most apprenticeships, especially within the helmets to hard hats, they get you right into the apprenticeship.
Yep.
Apprenticeships are great. You pay your $18 a month in dues, but you're sitting on a waiting list, or you're at the top of a waiting list, or you're going out and doing your own research to figure out what companies are actually hiring
Right.
apprentices. And then even at that, you're on this junior list, so you get kind of bumped around a little bit. But my question is, do you get within this
18 weeks?
18 weeks of
Training.
as an active duty Marine, my commander would give me 18 weeks at the end of my time to go and fix something, and it gives me a year of apprenticeship, which is also more money when I come into the second year of apprenticeship. And as an apprentice, I know that. I know what that means.
Okay.
It's powerful, and that's the reason I'm saying this, because I have tons of guys that are on apprenticeships for electricians and plumbing up in Hayward and such. So it's powerful to know this, but the idea is these guys still got to go find a job and find a company that will hire them. And the companies have to be able to say, we'll take you and put you at the top of the priority list. My question is, are they doing that?
Well, I mentioned the organizer. That's his primary focus is once, let's say we get 9 applicants that have started the program, okay? And by the way, we've had like almost 95% complete, you know, so we haven't had a lot of dropout. Because like John mentioned earlier, these folks are focused, they have the discipline already, they just need, they're just, you know, looking for a direction, so to speak, you know, and we're happy to do that. It's been a win-win for us. I think what happens, so to answer your question, that organizer's working on making sure that that job's ready and stuff. And these guys and gals, and we've had quite a few gals now too, which has been nice because our trade is not always been, you know, I won't say job friendly for gals, but they've stayed away from it. But we're seeing a lot more, which is good. But so yeah, they're focused on, because same thing, like I said, to go through all this and not have some place to go, you know, that's the tough thing, you know. So that's almost as high a priority as this program. But now this program, just so you know, we've pitched this to the armed forces, and you know, the Navy and the Marines and the Air Force and the Army have embraced it, okay? And when I say they embraced it, that means they realize the win-win for them, because we're dealing with, it's no cost to them. The cost to them is to give up that person for the time while they're going through the school. But they also know that a lot of the finishing vets don't have a lot of choices, because sometimes their training isn't real relatable once they get out into the real world and stuff. And so they want to, their goal is to make that better as well. So we've been very fortunate to have the successes. And like I said, this is a real new program. The veterans, the Helmets to Hard Hat Welder program is only about 2 years old, 2.5 years old. It's not that old either. That's been very successful as well. And it's the UA, which is I'll call it the parent company to all the locals. It's the association that all the locals belong to. They spend about $220 million a year on training, okay? But the benefit to them is once they go through the training and they have somebody that's working, and then they got a working, paying member, happy contractors, happy workers, you know, everything keeps going, everything keeps perpetuating. So
I think, and one of the other things that you mentioned real quick was some apprenticeship programs have direct entry for veterans. So you mentioned, you know, even if they come out, if they don't go through a VIP, a lot of apprenticeship programs, if you're a veteran, you go right to the top of the list, if nothing else, or you go into the next class, next time there's a class. So there are programs out there, and thinking back to what I talked about with pre-apprenticeship, if a college can put together a pre-apprenticeship program that meets the needs of some of the local apprenticeship programs, that's one more way to provide a good source of apprentices for those apprenticeship programs and move your students to the top of the list if you can. So.
Typically, the pre-apprenticeship program,
Safety, OSHA, hand tools, power tools, don't hurt the person next to you, don't get electrocuted. It's a lot of safety. I mean,
Work environment.
Work environment.
The pre-apprenticeship?
It's, you know what, I've seen
varies.
it in all shapes and sizes.
Yeah.
I think that's something that, what works on your campus using existing courses perhaps, or you can go non-credit maybe, but as long, if it feeds to an apprenticeship program, that's the kicker. You gotta have that, otherwise it's just a construction, general construction class of some sort. And you can tweak some of the things you already have and make them a pre-apprenticeship if they're connected somewhere. So, yeah, a lot of it's work environment. I've been to the carpenters they have did you do the 8-week pre-apprenticeship training, or did they? Okay. And it was interesting to me that they had all the pre-apprentices had the safety vests on, and the joke was that the safety vests weren't for the apprentices, it was for all the other folks to know who the pre-apprentices were, so you could maintain a safe bubble around them. And that's a good thing, because like the other guy on the video said, if you can actually provide a value add to the apprenticeship program where that guy's in a power pathways, but he realized pretty quick, I don't want to do power pathways, I want to be that's okay. That's a value add to PG&E, that person doesn't show up and then flame out because they don't like it. That's good. So that's the data that you would start to collect later on, that how many of these folks do we put into an apprenticeship program, then how many of them stay there and continue and finish up. So
I think we had a question right here.
I have a question about, have any of the companies looked at the tax incentive of hiring veterans once they graduated through the programs, and utilizing that asset as a venue of why we should hire veterans once they've been trained like that?
I think it's something that's fairly new that they, I think they've known it's out there, but now they realize with this program it's much more viable for them, because before, when there wasn't a focus or like a direction to give them, it's like some would come in and be there and then maybe wouldn't stay because of this or that. And so now, because that's becoming more second nature to us, yes, it's part of the process. Did that answer your question? I can't quote what it is, but they get certain, if a certain percentage of their workforce is a veteran, they get some type of tax incentive, and obviously the more they have, the more it can be, but yeah.
Yeah, that's
it offsets.
Dollar for dollar, yeah.
Yeah. Over here.
I don't think we have a pretty good apprenticeship program at Long Beach City College. I know that I have a gentleman that keeps coming in and selling me something else that goes on campus. And veterans are adults, so I make everything available and they make their choice. But I'm trying to wrap my head around the presentation today. Are you guys saying that like we're trying to bring more programs into the community college, and we need to find a creative way to like offer pre-apprentice like classes?
That would be one way to do it. I think the number one thing was just letting you know about apprenticeship programs so that you can direct the folks that come into your centers to the apprenticeship programs.
Then my second question to that is, I heard a lot of stuff in Northern California and I heard Seattle, but what is going on here in Southern California?
You mean as far as the veterans with the bases and stuff? The only local focus right now we have is.
You mentioned a lot of things on bases, but the thing is I don't work with a lot of actors.
Okay.
I work with veterans.
Okay. Well, I have Pat Hebe, one of your instructors for the HVAC program, Long Beach City College. He sits on one of my advisory committees, and what we do for folks that if you have a veteran that when they were in the Navy or Air Force or Army, and they have a relatable skill in air conditioning and refrigeration, if they can prove that they did that in the service, okay, through their documentation, they get something like John said, a direct entry into our apprenticeship program. So they jump the list, basically. And so somebody that has those qualifications doesn't have to go through all the other selection steps that we make for the apprenticeship program. Okay, it's like a fast track, so to speak. And a lot of them do.
Otherwise, it would
Well, it's not so much it would take how long, it's just, like qualifications for our apprenticeship program, or a typical one for our programs is, high school diploma or GED, a year of high school algebra and or geometry, or a semester in a junior college, or a certificate of completion from an affiliated school. We have several schools that we're affiliated with here. Now, I'm in the Southern California area. I direct 5 different training centers here in this area, and we have several schools that we are affiliated with. Long Beach City College, we have some affiliations with them. What that means is if somebody comes to apply for the apprenticeship program, we recognize your certificate program as part of the selection, and so that gives that person, their qualification. Yes, Daryl Soares. I know Daryl real well. Yep, I've known Daryl since the '80s. Yeah, good man. Good man.
Now, and real quick, and I'm going to plug something that's going to happen on Monday, I hope. And I barely talked to you about this, but his list of approved schools I got to see a few weeks ago, and it's almost a ready-made. It's like an articulation almost, that if you come out of these particular 8, 9, 10 programs, you get some benefit at Rick's program where you can move to the front of the list. We've got Prop 39 workforce development funding coming out, and I'm working on the RFA for that. That RFA has everything from Prop 39 has to be energy efficiency in some form or another. And that can be electricians, that can be a lot of HVAC, refrigeration. If that stuff's not running right, you're wasting money. And that's going to be a regionalized kind of RFA to encourage colleges to set up certificate programs that are regional in nature of some sort. It's going to be an interesting way how it works out, but I want you to keep that in the back of your head too, in terms of there's an awful lot of apprenticeship programs that touch on energy efficiency, and that's a big deal right now with lots of other funding to help leverage improving or making a very direct connection to an apprenticeship program. Yeah.
What about, is there anything with the Department of Water and Power, DWP, do they offer anything? I know, the reason I'm asking is we used to have a certificate in water. There were 6 classes, some had a water certificate. And we just moved it to our non-credit side because we were basically just serving DWP.
Yeah.
And so we moved it from credit to non-credit just for them. But I'm wondering, Department of Water and Power would be a big employer.
Oh, yeah.
If they have any.
They have one in Northern California with Delta College, and it's kind of small. It's almost like a single employer kind of thing. There's big apprenticeship programs like Rick's that serve lots of it's multi-employer. It's all over the place. There's also small single employers that might only need 2 or 3 apprentices, and DWP kind of.
The Metropolitan Water District.
Yeah.
Is offering apprenticeships in engineering.
There you go. There's a lot that. Yeah.
I'm not aware of any other ones here locally, like especially in Los Angeles.
I would say as a veteran, if I were to walk into a certified official that looks at my documents every day, knows what classes I'm doing, if the certified official that I know is as passionate as most of the ones that I have met in this entire summit, most of you as certified officials have the ability to tell a veteran, oh, by the way, the classes you're taking, they could possibly map to an apprenticeship. If you tell that to a veteran, they're going to go, excuse me, what? They're going to, or, oh, I know about that, but how do I get into it? How do I get involved? And the idea is that all the certified officials, counselors, and everyone that's here, they have so much pull with a veteran, because the veteran is that person that they're looking for, someone that has the power to say, I got something for you, and it's not life-changing in some cases. It's just minor things. So the question that you were asking is like, how do you, is this something that you guys push to the students? Is it something? No, you just recommend it to the students. Because when I got out of the Marine Corps in 2007, I went through 3 days of taps and tams, and I heard nothing of helmets or hard hats. I did 8 months of back-breaking, in the swamps, doing crazy stuff, and all of a sudden someone says, hey, wait a minute, you're a Marine. What the heck are you doing picking up trash? Why aren't you in the apprenticeship program letting me get the helmets and hard hats? I had no idea.
Well,
I walked over to the local, I said, this is who I am. You're on the apprenticeship list, go to work as an apprentice. It was an automatic $8 an hour
that was
Am I saying?
6 years ago,
Yes.
7 years ago almost.
So, as much as you guys are getting involved with taps and TAMs and getting people ready before they leave, the colleges, the next thing they can do is, when the students walk in, hey, if you're taking that class you're enrolled in, here's an apprenticeship that's associated with that. Don't forget that. By the way, that's going to cost you a lot of money if you don't. And that's going to be money in their pocket, because the GI Bill will pay for it anyways.
Well, I think that's a lot of reason why we're here and why we're discussing this is I won't say that we're the best known secret out there, but our group's been around for over 100 years, you know, pipe fitting of all different types and stuff like that. I'll get you. And we recognize the fact that we never really have had to market ourselves before, but John brought up earlier something that really concerns the heck out of us, and that's the baby boomers. We're looking at so many baby boomers moving out here and then, you know, retiring here in the next 8 years, you know, and we need to backfill all these spots, and we need to get these people like in pipelines, you know, where they're ready to come in, and before these folks get out, because once they get out, you know, it's tough to download that information. So.
And to do all that training while you're trying to support a family and kids and everything else that you have while you're in the service.
Exactly.
Is a nightmare. So trying to filter VA stuff and union stuff.
Yeah.
It's great to have it before you get out.
I have one question over here. Yes, sir.
I have a few questions. So, full new apprenticeships, as you know, our school doesn't have them. Nothing.
It's okay.
So I think that the person can use GI Bill to go to the apprenticeship program.
Yeah, you can get a high percentage of the benefits that you would normally get if you were just going to college, because they finally recognize that it's post-secondary education.
Okay.
So.
Yeah. And also, does it goes on transfer to the school that the person?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Do you guys have a list of rates or MOSs that relate to the specific apprenticeships you guys have? That would help a lot for people coming out of the service with GSTs.
I wonder if Mike Hazard might.
Yeah, he might.
I'll look into it.
Yeah. And the person's like, back to your point, the person that would be most helpful, I think, the counselors who come in, if they know, if they're, of course, they have to get buy-in from the administration, which is conscious sometimes, but if they were to understand and get a train that, hey, look, we have some guys coming out who were AC air conditioning guys in the Marine Corps, and then we have, I don't know, Joint Services Transcript, I'm sure everyone knows what it is, JST, I don't know what it is. The military transcript they get, not the DP, the military transcript, it's gonna say on there, hey, I was a ET in the Navy, that relates to a possibility of transferring into the apprenticeship program. The counselor will be able to give that student the option to go talk to someone about that.
What I can answer to that on that particular www.ua.org is the UA website. You can go on there and you can look at all the different trades that it shows on there. But if you go into the career profile and you advise your folks, hey, I encourage you to put your information into the career profile. What happens with that is that gets sent to the UA. Somebody at the UA looks at that and then looks at, okay, where that person wants to go. I get those profiles if they're local, LA, Orange County, San Diego, that area. So they send it to me, and then I'll contact those folks. And so it's either the UA deals with it or they send it to the individual locals to deal with that. But that's an easy resource for those folks is ua.org career profile. And we have one more question over here.
To address your situation, I'm in a college atmosphere, and I oversee a Veterans Resource Center. And I'm also the Region 8 president here. Our regions do not have enough information about apprenticeship programs. I am on the ITV, also task force with the governor, and I'm going to tell you right now, Don Merrill does attend our groups. He fully admits there is not enough advertisement and information to the colleges. So until we get that, you can do all you want to do about saying that you're going to college, you're going to counselors, and all the counselors don't know about it.
Right.
The certified officials don't know about it. All of the people that are doing these academic plans do not know about it. So we need to start with the chancellor's office and have them disseminate some of this information down to us about these fabulous programs. Get our technology divisions entirely involved so that they can actually promote these programs. And because in my opinion, a lot of our veterans come back and they do not want to do those 4-year careers. They want a field that they can go into that can be those technology fields, that can be those plumbers, those HVACs, those all of those things out there, electricians, and work with their hands because they're really great at those things. So we need to try and build on those type of assets and that background With
through
our Veterans Resource Centers.
the region, okay, yeah.
Yes, and
Got it.
David Lawrence is your contact for that.
Oh, yeah.
And get it out to those regions. We therefore will take it back to our colleges and simply say, these are the programs that are out here, this is what we can do. Then we'll go back and educate our academic counselors that deal with veterans, our certified officials. That's how you're gonna get it out there. And then we can also build more programs on our campuses, because that's the way we build it.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, and that was the same struggle I had when I was at the CDE, is getting to the counselors, and there's just a lot more of them in the K-12 system. So those are the notes I'm writing down here. We have a conference coming up in April that I think I might invite a bunch of people to, because your idea of matching the MOS skill set to apprenticeship programs, we would actually have to have some people in a room and do it. So we can do that.
But Coastline is a pretty good expert on that too, so you need to.
Good. Well, guess what? You're the leader of the panel.
So just so you know, if you go on to, what's the website for going on to USA Jobs, usajobs.com, or no, it's .gov. Oh, .gov. You go on there, there's a sidebar, and I can't think of the website right now, but it'll tell you, especially if you're a veteran, you work a veteran, it'll send you to another website. You type in your MOS, and all the 7 MOSs you've ever had. It actually helps you build your resume so that you can tell civilians what you did on the military side. That catapults what you're applying for with your within jobs within the governmental system. So you can actually tell them I was a journey, I had a journeyman level HVAC. I had journeyman level this or that, because you had, like I had 10 years in logistics. It transfers into a lot of other things, and that's a huge base. It's a huge map, basically, for us to filter out to what.
This conference is getting a lot bigger now.
Yeah, it is.
In April. In case it's in April in San Diego, so it's not so bad. But I'll send that out through David. I'll get all that information out to you guys, because I think we want to grow that conference outside of just the kind of talking to ourselves kind of thing. We want to include everybody. So, cool.
I brought a small video to show you some of the stuff that the veterans have gone through.
This is worth watching. We used to say that apprenticeship is felon friendly, because it is, and it's also even more veteran friendly. I think we've been talking about it a lot more, but that was one of the first things I learned when I got into this, was it's felon friendly. So if you have those guys out there, and girls, so.
Hello, I'm Bill Height, General President of the United Association. I want to personally invite you to become part of our team. As a third-generation member of the UA, this is more than a job to me, it's my heritage. Not just because of the obvious connection, but because when you're a member of the UA, you're family. We work together and we stick together. And we invest in our membership. Our training program is the best in the country. We work in an industry that cannot be shipped overseas, and there's plenty of work to go around. And we're looking for good people to join us. But we don't just want anyone. We want people who will share our vision and take pride in their work. And that's why we're opening our doors to military men and women like you, because the bottom line is you're America's finest, and it's a good fit.
Everyone thinks the scariest part is being deployed, but coming home can be even scarier.
I was in the United States Air Force for 6 years. When I got out, I was Staff Sergeant, E5. I applied with other unions, the railroad, everybody. It almost seemed like the military was kind of a turnoff.
I was in the military for 4 years. I was a tanker, so it's not really a civilian equivalent out there.
They were looking more at people with college degrees and education experience, and I spent 3 years in a infantry unit.
You know, you end up working at McDonald's or warehouse or, you know, whatever you can do to survive.
I started looking in school, started looking at anything, apprenticeships. I applied for all sorts of jobs,
I was actually contemplating going back to active duty because I wasn't able to find a job that was paying enough that would be able to sustain my family. And then somebody in my National Guard unit told us about this, so I was like, oh, go check it out.
I went to the orientation and I said, yeah, this is for me, and I did whatever I could do to get in.
Whether you're finishing your term of service or are active in the military, the United Association's door is open to you. We'll provide you with the hands-on training you need, and we will be there to help you to transition into the civilian world.
The UA has made it possible for me to get real hands-on training without having to pay for anything. There's no tuition fees, book fees, or anything else.
This type of training would cost me thousands and thousands of dollars if I was getting this kind of training in a trade school or a community college.
The resources that they've been able to procure for us and have in place before we even got here were just outstanding.
We honestly believe that these veterans deserve what we're doing. They've earned that right.
Most Americans never serve active duty. Military men and women make up the courageous minority who choose a different path. The United Association of Journeymen and Apprentices of the Plumbing and Pipe Fitting Industry of the United States, Canada, and Australia, affiliated with the National Building Trades, is proud to be the brothers and sisters who will never forget.
Right now in the United States, the unemployment rate for returning veterans is double what it is for the rest of the population. And even the veterans that do get jobs, something like 25 to 30% of them are considered poverty rate jobs. That's just not right in our opinion.
You go into the UA, number one, the training doesn't cost you anything. Number two, you have pay and benefits of the best in the industry. And number three, you have all sorts of educational opportunities to improve yourself. And number four, you're with a group of people that's very, very much like family, that are going to take care of one another. Very, very much like the military.
It's not a sacrifice for us. We're getting some of the best young people that are available in badly needed trades right now. And it's the right thing to do.
This type of program, to me, is exactly what the United States and the state of Washington should be doing. We know the expertise that these vets have. We know that there's no more dependable group of Americans than vets. And we know we've got to have a crop of folks to get in there and roll up their sleeves and really rebuild the infrastructure of this state and this nation.
We know that we can never really repay our military men and women for the extraordinary service that they have given our nation. But Bill Haidt and the UA believed that, in fact, there was something the United Association could actually do to thank these fine individuals. We could set them on a path that will lead to a lifelong career. You and your UA brothers and sisters will have dignity in their work and security in the knowledge that you're a part of an enduring brotherhood with a long and powerful tradition of excellence and mutual support.
In the beginning, this all just seemed too good to be true, and so far everything has lived up to the expectations. Most importantly, the program allowed me the opportunity to achieve the goals I originally set out to when I joined the military. This program has done so much, not only for my family and I, but my classmates as well. I hope this program has the opportunity to grow so that all soldiers who served honorably can be afforded the opportunities that we all have received by attending the VIP program.
If you're interested in starting a civilian career, the United Association is here for you. The networking has already been done. And when you come into the program, your training is paid for.
The VIP program has been a real lifesaver for my family. It costs a lot to raise a family in this economy. Once Rob graduates the training program, he'll be in a better position to support our family.
I think I'm extremely lucky because if this had not come along, I don't know where I'd be.
It really becomes apparent after you've just spent a few minutes around the United Association. The similarities between the brotherhood that you experience, so to speak, in the Marine Corps and the brotherhood that is the UA.
I want to personally thank you for the courage you've shown in protecting America and upholding our honor. Those of us at the United Association owe you a debt of gratitude that we won't forget. Through the Veterans in Piping program, many veterans and reservists have found a career in the UA. A career that not only offers them good pay and benefits, but a future. The door is open wide for you to join us. There's plenty of demand, and there's work to be done for years to come. You helped defend America, now let's build her together.
That gives you a small glimpse of what we've done. I can't tell you, I've been to several of the graduations, and meeting some of the families of the vets and experiencing, they realize it's not just a job, it's a career path for them, and it's been very satisfying for me personally as well. But open this up to any more questions or any more comments you might have.
All right.
Well, just to support, I walked in here totally cold. One of the things that I try to get, I teach history, so I'm into the academic side of it. I ask my students, why are you in college? And so many of them say, well, statistics show that if you have a BA or BS, you make more money. And one of the things I try to get across is that maybe college isn't for everybody, or I have no problem with, I stopped out of college for 8 years, is go work, get a career, come back to college. And I also have no problem with the idea of a laboring person being educated at the same time, that they should know these things as good citizens. So this gives me some hope.
We should have brought some of the math questions from his math test.
Yeah.
You want to see some difficult stuff. Yeah. That's not it's trigonometry at that point.
It's not meant to be difficult. It's just something they're going to experience when they're in the field. And, it's funny you say that. I did almost a similar thing. I mean, I followed my dad into the trade, and I had gone to college a couple of years, but my dad was bugging me to get in, so I got in, but I've gone back. I'm currently working on my degree too, and it's funny. You see that a lot. Folks that they got out and work, and now they're back out there, back in the trenches.
Sort of building on that, I'm wondering to what extent there's any conversation about connecting the apprenticeship training to academic degree programs. So you take somebody who's an apprentice in construction, but somehow that training would count toward a degree in construction management. So the time, I don't want to say it's lost, but it's
there's a couple different places. I believe San Jose City College is working with the carpenters a little bit for something similar. And that's kind of a little bit of what that Prop 39 thing I hope does, at least in the energy efficiency areas, and come up with an applied associate's degree, an associate of applied sciences degree. Because I think we need to rethink how apprenticeship programs look at the funding, because as soon as you go to 4 credit, it becomes more expensive. And I came from the CDE, where I handled all the money, the RSI, the related and supplemental instruction money over there. Well, those programs have a little bit less overhead because they're all non-credit. It's just run through the CDE as an LEA or an adult school. With the adult programs coming over, so we need to kind of rethink it. Maybe there's a little bit of a cost where if an apprentice really realizes that they want the AS degree, they pay the premium on it or something like that. I think we need to. That's a big discussion, because I think it's worth thinking about, especially with electricians, HVAC. Some of the apprenticeship programs are very high-end machinists. You can get very close to an AA degree quickly with those and go hit your general ed. So
we are affiliated too with Washtenaw Community College. Yes. Back in Ann Arbor, and they do recognize and they give us college credits toward certain things, but. Like John said, we need to have more conversations with that, because that would benefit so many more people, because we're talking Michigan, here.
It's tough to take that AAS and transfer to CSU, I think. I haven't, I'm just getting into digging into that, and I think it would be much easier in California if we had a way to do this. So we're working on it. Yes, ma'am.
We have a policy
And it's a college by college basis because one of, yeah.
But it's the license that verifies the training. They
Right.
couldn't get the license in California,
Oh.
they couldn't get the license nationally. They didn't do the hours, if they didn't have the skills, and they didn't do the training. So it's actually the license that verifies the training.
One of the biggest hurdles is the minimum qualifications for the instructors. That's a big hurdle with, and that's thankfully, I guess, why I get to handle all of it now.
Yeah.
So I get to hear all of them. And we're in the process of doing that on the apprenticeship side in terms of creating a common, at least a common policy or procedure, and we need to invite the academic senate folks to come visit and learn more about these programs, because the 2 or 3 that I know about that have visited with programs and seen what they do, their eyes kind of open up like, oh wow, this is rigorous. It take a 5-year apprenticeship with these guys is close to a master's degree in terms of hours. Honestly, it's not easy. It's difficult. There's a lot of chemistry and welding and science and everything else in there. So we've got to figure out a way to talk to the academic folks too, because I come out of academics and I should have been pointing a lot of my students towards apprenticeship programs because they were smart and intelligent and they were just done with school. And we've seen that student.
I think that conversation is probably one of the most critical.
Yeah.
Involving faculty so that they can see that there's the rigor.
Oh.
And it's going to meet the requirements of the traditional academic course.
Yeah,
Some of it's happening, but it's not across the system.
it's similar to career tech ed at the K-12 level, dealing with the UC A through G requirements, if you've had to deal with that. Because when you start talking about career tech ed and the lab component, the UCs don't like the lab piece. They want the bookwork piece. So it's a similar thing. So we're working on it. There you go. Anything else, folks?
Thank you
know where
very
to reach
much.
us.
Thank you.
Thanks.